Nice. Good call. Oh yeah, I should switch the camera over too.
Here we go.
Let's really bring it in actually.
This is just the two of us.
Let me know when it's pretty much just those two chairs. Bring it down some. How's that?
Turn it just a little bit. Right there. Right. Now we're in the middle. Yep.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right, we are live. I'm just gonna post some links real quick.
Thank you.
Welcome, Alice, to the 38th Rhetoric Rabbit Hole Book Club. We are gathered here today to discuss Sun and Steel by Yukio Mishima. What's the full title? His personal testament on art, action, and ritual death.
Gotta include that last part.
Yeah, that's a big focus on this is the ritual death aspect.
You could say it's foreshadowing.
Yeah. So, first of all, to my right, we have the great and powerful David Penna. And joining us over Zoom, we have the one and only Rusty Fowler as well. Check out Teleguy on streaming platforms, Instagram, Spotify. You put out a new song a couple weeks ago? That's right.
Yeah, Leave It Alone came out April 16th, and there's a song coming May 2nd called RDT.
RDT is the new one?
Yeah.
That's cool. What's that stand for? Is it secret?
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, fair enough. Now I'm interested. Okay.
And there's no words because I decided to leave the words out. So it's very short, it's very imperfect, very simple, very me, and it's just short instrumental. So
You're such a prolific artist. Like you write more than a lot of the other artists I know.
but my stuff's demo quality, right? So I just it's just fun to kick some stuff out.
Yeah.
I need to do more.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And that's actually that ties into Yukio Mishima pretty well actually, about the art and action stuff.
Yeah.
It's important to do.
Yeah,
We don't life is short, right?
Because it doesn't even have to be like lifting. It's just like making a physical manifestation of what you like think in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David recommended this book. Before we get into the book, why don't you tell Alice a little bit about the author?
Okay, so he grew up as a youngster during World War II. And in fact, he wanted to join World War II, but he spent his entire like childhood just being like a bookworm. Like he was like very, very sick and skinny and weak, and he wasn't able to join, the military. and it's something that he's like regretted. And because of that, once he grew older, he started to actually like put into action what he wanted it to be. He wants his body to match what he feels like his brain is. And fast forward a little bit more, the older he gets, he starts making his own like group of people who believe what he believes. And he kind of wants to go back to this like old feudal Japan of like worshiping like masculinity and power and stuff. It's just at the time after World War II, America occupied Japan, and they were kind of like pushing to be more like westernized, and that's what he was like against, which is like where his nationalism comes in, and that leads to him trying to overthrow his own government, which failed, and after he failed, he killed himself, seppuku.
Yeah. The fact that you recommended this for book club, I took very personally because I'm like, I feel like David wanted me specifically to read this.
Don't do that. Don't try to overthrow.
But it is something that like I resonated with really strongly, certain aspects of it. It's about he romances the action and the death, right? It's you do. It's not about pleasure, it's about excellence, you know? He's like a man of principles who has an agenda. And it's not even so much about what he wants as much as his, I mean, I guess he does want it, but it's also a lot of it is duty.
Mhm.
It's like, I have a duty to Japan. Like, that's a part of it. Also, he has this fixation with, he's obsessed with death, which I think is a very like, the hero's death, the meaningful death, the way that there's a meaningful life is kind of a rite of passage. I feel like that's a strong thing in Japanese culture in particular, like the honorable death.
Did you think that maybe he fixated on that because when he was younger, he was less about the action and physicality, and he was more about the words and in his head?
Yeah.
Because, to me, I mean, an overarching thing is a struggle between what I'm thinking and what I am, and I thought that was really interesting. And there's that struggle not only between those two things, but there is if I can make myself stronger on the outside, I can feel better about myself and be stronger on the inside. And that's so true. And he doesn't dance around that. He says that blatantly throughout the book, And so I think there's a lot of truth in that. And he's trying to say, well, if I do these external things, it makes me better or makes me stronger on the inside as well, or at least he feels that way, I don't know.
Yeah. It he's an artist even with his sword work and with his bodybuilding. He is an artist. He's also like, it's weird to, because it's translated from Japanese to English, like we're definitely missing a lot of nuance, but even with it being translated in English, he's a very good writer. Like he's very flowery. And there's a part here on the back that I agree with. On the back cover of my copy, it says, in this fascinating document, one of Japan's best known and controversial writers created what might be termed a new literary form. It is new because it combines elements of many existing types of writing, yet in the end fits into none of them. And I think that's very true. There's poetry, there's philosophy, it's a little bit autobiographical.
A little bit of self-help.
It's also a manifesto, like it's a lot of things, and yet it's none of, you cannot neatly fit it in any of those boxes. He's very much an artist and a creative person.
Yeah, because like how would you sell it to, like, if this was made today, how would you even try to sell it to a public or to a publisher?
Yeah, I don't know what the pitch for this would be.
Yeah.
Was he a well-known figure before he went full edgy?
Before this, yeah.
Okay.
He had already made several like successful, just regular novels, like regular stories of like point A, point B, point C. This is like it's like his first attempt at like making something that's like more philosophy based or whatever.
Okay, so he was most well known as a novelist then.
As a novelist, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
In fact,
If
what's
you were going to sell this today, there would be a self-help element to it.
Yeah, that probably is where you would put it. Yeah.
so for
You know.
example, one of his more famous books, it's a series where it's about a guy who's trying to overthrow Japan, and then the book ends with him killing himself.
Mm. Hmm.
Talk about some strange predictions.
Yeah, more foreshadowing, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely, it felt to me like a cry for help too. Um, he's not depressed about it. He's kind of manic about it.
Yeah,
Like
it's more mania.
he is for sure about what he wants to do.
But yeah, and I think you alluded to this earlier, um, the death obsession is really about the valor, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is um, from a military standpoint, he talks about when you're together and you're in that group and you train together and you have this mission and you have a collective feeling of valor. But the interesting thing to me was he kind of backs out of that a little bit and he says, but if you're alone, and he says it in a different way than this, but if you're alone, sometimes you back out of the desire for the valor, right? So he really gets into when you're part of that group and you train together and you have a specific mission, you're in it for the valor. And he talks about those letters that they write, right? If you read the letters of some of those folks, they know they're going to die, and they write very prolifically about the mission and positive things. It's not oh my God, I'm going to die stuff, right? And that's because they are into the mission, they train for the mission. And I thought that was really interesting as well. um, and it makes you wonder how long he personally was considering his own fate because of the books and what they referenced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems to me like this is something he's been thinking about his whole life. Um, he, as a young man, wanted to enlist because he saw the honor and the like Rusty said, the valor of sacrifice. I think this sums it up really well. This is page 65. The inside of the apple is naturally quite invisible. Thus, at the heart of that apple, shut up within the flesh of the fruit, the core lurks in its wan darkness, tremblingly anxious to find some way to reassure itself that it is a perfect apple. The apple certainly exists, but to the core, this existence as yet seems inadequate. If words cannot endorse it, then the only way to endorse it is with the eyes. Indeed, for the core, the only sure mode of existence is to exist and to see at the same time. There's only one method of solving this contradiction. It is for a knife to be plunged deep into the apple so that it is split open and the core is exposed to the light. The apple sacrifices existence for the sake of seeing. So that, I mean, he's not ambiguous at all. He thinks there is a closure and a clarity in death, where you understand, not only do you understand yourself, like you confirm what you have thought.
That you're about it.
Yeah. You show other people too. You show other people what you're all about. And I think he is making a good point here. Put your money where your mouth is. If you are about a cause, stand for that cause. I think I'm not trying to radicalize anyone when I say this, but I think there is a lot of that where everyone is upset right now. I mean, I've talked to so many people on Rabbit Hole from different walks of life, and one thing we can all agree about is that our system is corrupt. No, you're not. You're going to be hard pressed to find someone that's like, no, our system's not corrupt, right? And we all know that. Yet we all kind of feel trapped. We all kind of feel like there's not a recourse to fix that And I think what I resonate with Yukio Mishima is it's worth the endeavor of trying. Um, and I respect his willingness to lay his life down for what he believes in.
And I think that's really a true thing, Alex, from the standpoint of I think people have to realize that they can change things,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to take it a step further. I mean, he goes from the I'm trying to organize groups to change things, or he sees the valor in those groups. And I think it's just as much about the individual,
Mm.
right? I think if everybody individually changes themselves, they can influence people around them. And I think that's the way things really happen. Movements happen grassroots, right? And I
Yeah.
think it really has to start within each person going, I feel a certain way about this particular thing, whatever it is, right? And so while I think he really talks about the military aspect of things, the book is really a very personal thing about him,
Yeah.
right? He talks about that and everything, but the fact of the matter is he is struggling between what he was and what he couldn't be, as Dave referred to earlier, because of because the way he grew up and everything. And then what he really sees as something that is I can be looked up to for what this act was that I worked through, or this through the military or whatever else. So I don't know. I think there's a good dose of individualism, and I'm going to fix me. I'm going to work on me, and there's a good dose of no, we can do it as a group in this, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Because
For sure.
there's like a bigger theme overall within the book itself is there's this theme of like duality, but also like combining both of those things. Like the best symbol he uses is like the snake eating it like its tail.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
end,
Like
talking
he's
about in the epilogue.
yeah, because he's
yeah,
like
that
he's
was at the
talking
end.
about like his example of like the individual and the group, but there really shouldn't be a separation between them both. You can like make them both work together.
Sure. The individual's goals can sometimes line up with the collective's goals. Is that
Yeah, I mean, like let's say you work on your body, you become fit, you can become a model for other people to become that too.
not only that, but you better the world when you better yourself, right?
Yeah. Or like if you're a musician, you putting the stuff in your head into action to create music can also influence other people to like do the same.
That has a serious positive impact on the world that is not appreciated to the depth that it is, like how important that is,
Yeah.
how important expression is.
And he's saying that no, not that you have like an obligation to do that, that you have like a duty
Yeah.
to do that.
I feel the guy. I feel the guy on that. If you think there's a problem, you should do something about it, and you should also live your life as authentically as possible, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, right?
Mhm. And not
I
only
think
that, but
there's a real challenge with people being able to do that these days because the world has become so judgmental
Mhm.
that people feel like they can't be themselves. And that's really a sad thing, because we've
Yeah.
become so polarized that people don't feel like they can be themselves. Um, without getting into a real deep discussion, my gosh, we're three different people on here, right? And we're three different people. We have different beliefs, and you know what? We can have a discussion, and we can walk away from this thing going, "No, we may not have agreed on everything, but we're all three people with three distinct opinions and what we believe." And the world's not like that as much as it used to be, and I think that's really sad. The interesting thing, and I don't know how this ties in. I'll ask you guys your opinion on this. There's one part in the book, and I apologize, I listened to the audiobook, so I don't have a page number,
You're
where he
fine.
basically says he didn't have taste for defeat or victory without a fight.
There's got to be
So
a.
he didn't have taste for defeat or victory without a fight. And I thought that was interesting. So I'm gonna relate that to a song and read a song lyric here. But then I'm interested in what you guys think about that statement.
Yeah.
I used to be a huge Rush fan, right? Old school prog, I guess. And they had a song called "Resist," which is kind of a heartfelt acoustic song. And one of the lines in that says, you can surrender without a prayer, but you can never really pray without surrender. You can fight without ever winning, but never really win without a fight. And when I read that, no taste for defeat or victory without a fight, that's the thing that popped into my head, was that song there. So I don't know, what do you think about the no taste for defeat or victory and how he felt about that?
I think it's very true. You go ahead.
Well, because you can have wins, and they're not true wins if you're just following like the status quo. If you're just like letting yourself become the status quo and getting your wins from that, like that's not being true to yourself. So can you really count that as like a win?
It doesn't feel, it's empty.
Like for example, it would be super easy to be a politician that just does what you're supposed to do. I'll turn it off. You know what I mean? But that's different from being a politician who's actually trying to make like a change.
Yeah.
Yeah. A give me
harder
win is not a win, is it?
No. Yeah.
If somebody comes in and hands it to you, it's like, well, this is a great thing that I got this, but I didn't do anything to earn it, right?
Yeah. You're making an interesting observation here that Rush and Yukio Mishima are making as well, which is you don't appreciate what you have unless it costs you something. This is like true of children, right? It's like you spoil children and they don't, it means so much more when you earn something, you know? And I think that's true. It's, you have to have struggle. People crave struggle. It gives them, it defines their character, like the overcoming something. Like David pointed out, an easy win does not hit the same way that something of serious consequence and sacrifice does.
I mean, like there's no consequence. You're just doing what's already like empowered.
This sounds like, it's starting to sound like Christianity. Like he's very, it's like a Christ-like figure. It's like, it's funny to compare these two people, but it is though. Like, lay your life down. Like, no, I meant it. Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go back to the thing that David mentioned earlier. I mean, the whole thing, he concentrates on duality the entire time. And I get the impression that even from a young age, he tries to separate things. But they're not separate. They are interdependent, right? The things you think and say and write down, and the things that you manifest into reality and in the physical world, those things are related, right? Usually people don't produce something, and here comes my cat. Usually people don't produce something in the world unless they've visioned it, a lot of written it down, thought about it. So I found it really odd that he doesn't start there. He starts trying to keep those things very separate, and then later on he kind of starts to mix them together, and it's like he's trying to figure out how everything fits together. It goes, and I forget what person said this, but it's maybe in Deepak Chopra, I'm not sure. But are we a human being having a spiritual experience, or a spiritual being having a human experience? It's almost that feeling, right? It's not exactly that, but he kind of feels like that because he's trying to figure out, what am I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's an understanding. No, for sure. That's a big part of what he's talking about. I'm glad you brought that up. Is it's self-discovery, right? Through action. Which I want to know what y'all think about this. What you say you believe is not necessarily what you believe. Your actions dictate what your philosophy is, because you can say something, and that's kind of his whole thing, is like, put your money where your mouth is. If you really mean something, then mean it, right? It's like, let your words and your actions be in alignment. This is something. Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely agree with that. But let me ask you this question. Do you believe if you tell yourself something enough, that it becomes your reality?
Yeah, it's cyclical. It's all cyclical, right? It's not as simple as one or the other. Now, something I've like Another thing that I resonated with is like I'm on like a path right now of trying to be active and like work on myself physically for like basically the first time in my life. Um, and it really does like uh, you don't something I just understood for the first time at like last year is you don't you have to change your behavior in order to change who you are. You don't change who you are in order to do something. That's not how it works. What you do influences who you are. And then, who you are influences what you do, but it's an exchange, right? It's a conversation that you have with the universe.
And
Yeah.
and you have to believe you can do it before you take an action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked about this before we went live. And because you fall down one day, you can't give up. You've got to get back up and go, we're consistent with this. I do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's like doing gym stuff. That's like working on your body. That's like it's all just you have to do it over and over again. And if you stop doing it, you lose some of it. You lose muscle. You lose like part of your being. And so like you can't decide. You can't just be a good person every once in a while. Like it's something you have to like actively like do.
I wonder how much better the world would be if everyone was active. Like everyone um, took care of themselves. We're also poisoned, so it doesn't make it easy. Like we're poisoned in mind and body. So especially in America. So it's hard.
Well, we're going to go down a rabbit hole with that question. Um, if everybody were active, I think that would be a very positive thing for everybody individually. But I think the thing we can't overlook is most people, all people to different degrees, have trauma that they've dealt with in their life, whether it be from childhood or, or as adults or whatever else. And so active doesn't necessarily heal that, although it might help you get through it, right? Because
Yeah.
you start to you going back to what he says in the book, you can develop your self-worth because you start to use the steel, right? To use his term. But the activity alone, I don't know that it would solve everything. It would certainly help.
This is reminding me of we must we must believe that Sisyphus is happy. You know, y'all are familiar with Sisyphus.
Mhm.
It's the joy of the toil, right? Because it's a meditation. That's what it is. It's a meditation. You find yourself through struggle, and you begin to like yourself more the more you have struggled. Yeah.
He mentions that somewhere, man. It's somewhere in my notes. There's a very Buddhist thing that he says. Man, I don't know if I can find it, but he talks about a struggle. Um, and and basically uh realizes that it's not a separate thing, right? I'm not going to be able to find it in my notes here, but he mentions that he talks about struggle and struggle. Um, it's a sign of being alive,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a very Buddhist belief, right? I mean, I'm alive and I know I'm alive because there is struggle. There are things that I have to work through.
No,
Um,
yeah, I know the part you're talking about now. He's talking about how consciousness, it is the only proof we have of consciousness is suffering.
there it is. That's it. That's it. That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a part of the book where he's talking about when he was younger. So this is before he like understood the balance of like mind and body, where he's looking at these people carrying like the shrines. It's like a thing they do in Japan. They do it like every year, and they carry these like very very heavy shrines that carry their gods. They're literally carrying the burden of their gods on their shoulders. And this is something that you have to volunteer for. And the people who do it over and over and over again, they do it so much that they start to develop these like calluses, like huge calluses on their backs that literally help them do that. They make it like easier to do it. Like this is what they end up looking like.
Whoa. Oh my God.
And that's permanent. That becomes like a permanent armor piece on them because of their devotion.
It almost looks like prayer beads. But man, that is, for that to develop is, you got to show that to Alice and Rusty.
I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then he's talking about, he's looking at their eyes and he's trying to see like, what do they see through their suffering, their struggling.
Yeah.
And then he realizes that it's like just this, the sky, like nothing. It's like they're in the zone. They're in like, they're in this, they're in that Sisyphus, like being happy through the toil.
And he thought the ultimate way to achieve that was death. That's the moment where you most experience present. You're present. Yeah.
But my problem with him is that he's too obsessed with the extremes of it. He even admits to it that he's like, obsessed with the extremes of these. So I'm not saying that you, the audience, should like devote yourself that hard, but you should still devote yourself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You need to stand for something outside of self-interest. You need to have principles that you will follow even at your detriment, right? Mm-hmm. That's extremely important.
And in doing so, just like these guys that develop these like this armor.
It's a form of worship, actually. Sorry, go ahead.
But by doing that stuff they get on their backs, that's like a physical manifestation of their devotion that they have like in their mind. And that's what you need to do. You need to make it so that what's in your mind creates a physical manifestation in like the real world.
Right. Yeah.
That goes back to the thing of there's a cost. I've paid a price, and therefore what I've done is a good thing, right? So as you say, you can actually see that it's physical manifestation of showing that they did something. He even talks about stigmata in there a little bit, which is almost a referral, something like that. But what do you think about the term? And it's not word for word, but I wrote it down. What do you think about this when he said a dreamer despises imagination?
Oh, there's a lot there.
It's paraphrased a little bit, but he says a dreamer despises imagination. And to me, that is so, how's that possible?
I'm having a hard time with that one too.
I struggle with that. That's why I wrote it down.
I definitely don't agree with everything he says, which we were actually listening to another piece he wrote before the podcast. Okay, why don't you explain it? So this guy is like a pretty controversial figure, obviously. But he wrote another piece we were listening to before the podcast.
It's a piece on misogyny. He got criticized a lot because, and he mostly does regular novels, like regular story novels, and he gets a lot of critiques of like, oh, your female characters suck, they're like stereotypical, et cetera, et cetera. And so in response, he wrote this short story where he just went full misogynist. And it shows a lot about his character, because I think one of his greatest flaws is that he's very reactionary.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's where he takes it to the extreme. It's like
he's a little bit too influenced by surroundings a little bit. Yeah.
But like think of it like him doing this revolution against his own government and against like America, like the influences of America. I don't think he would have become or done what he did without that influence to begin with.
Oh, yeah. It's part of that struggle builds your character kind of thing. It's like there is no Yukio Mishima without American intervention.
Without something to oppose.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have a struggle. Yeah.
So from a cultural standpoint, something that intrigues me too. I mean, we talked about sacrifice and sacrifice for a cause and death. And yeah. I mean, in our army, there are missions that are, we don't necessarily call them suicide missions, but there are missions where people know that it's not going to be good when they go in, right? But culturally, when you think about kamikaze type, um, uh, missions, I mean, you think Japanese World War II, you think about a lot of that. So culturally, even though there are parallel lines, why do you think it was so important in Japanese culture and his culture, but we don't necessarily paint it the same way in ours? What do you think about that? I don't know. And I don't have an answer to that question.
I have a lot to say about that. You got any thoughts on that?
Why we don't do it the way they do it?
And I'm not saying either one's right or wrong. I find that intriguing that it's very culturally different, you know?
So for me, this comes back to put your money where your mouth is. If you say you stand for something, then stand for it. And I think America's problem is we have all of these, we have the American dream, we have these supposed values, but in action, we don't seem to actually value them that highly because we're so willing to sacrifice our liberty. So I guess we don't care about it. And like I would say I'm guilty of that too. As much as I value freedom as a highest ideal above quality of life, above anything else, still complacent, how much do I really value that? And how much do I really value comfort,
I mean, you could argue that America just has too much. It has too much comfort and has too many ways to dream, too many ways to like distract yourself, too many like outlets for that kind of stuff. Like I can just play a video game, and doing that, that's like ultimate fantasy. And doing that, I don't actually have to become the thing I want to be. I can just like
Emulate it.
emulate. I can just dream it.
Yeah, I think that is the thing is quality of life is so good.
Yeah, and I think we take a lot of that for granted. So, David, what you just said, let me go back to that thing I mentioned earlier. A dreamer despises imagination.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't see that coming, but that ties perfectly into
Yeah.
what you just said. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we do take a lot for granted in this country, and it is
Yeah.
because we do have opportunities that a lot of countries don't have, right?
Yeah.
And I do think a lot is taken for granted, and there are people that I've never been in the military, so but there are people that volunteer their lives to do these things that we're talking about. So it's not 100% fair to say, hey, it's a lot different than his culture. It's I mean, these people when they sign up for the military and they go into active duty, they know that there's a possibility something bad could happen,
Yeah.
right? So I do not want to belittle that at all. My gosh, there is tremendous sacrifice. The reason that you can play your video game and I can play guitar in a little while or whatever else is because people died.
Yeah.
That's the reason that we can do the things that we do. And since we don't, well, I can't speak. I don't know if you guys have been in the military at all, but since I don't have that personal experience, it's really easy for me to go, well, my existence is my reality's been, less some trauma. My reality's been pretty easy, right? I've had it pretty good. I didn't have to go personally sacrifice for that,
That's a good
but
outlook.
man, I reap the benefits of it,
Yeah. No,
and
absolutely.
it's really easy to forget that.
Yeah, my cousin was KIA in Afghanistan, and it is something that we we should always revere the people that make sacrifices for our way of life, and it's a thankless job a lot of the time, with dire circumstance, like dire sacrifices to it. I totally agree with you. I would have either gone into the military or law or politics if I believed in any of those institutions. Now, that is not a statement about our soldiers at all. I think there's a lot of those are good people who want to make a positive impact on the world. I just don't respect the institution they represent. It's not a statement about the individual, right? I feel the same way about like religion. Like I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. My sister knocks on doors 50 hours a month, something like that. And it's like, I respect it so much, like the sacrifice to try and go sacrifice so much of your time to go save people's eternal life is like the greatest thing you could do. My problem is I can't find
The thing.
the thing. This is what I do this because I feel like this is actually the most impact I can make. Because I just unfortunately don't believe in our legal system. I don't think you can make a positive impact through politics because I don't believe in these institutions. And I wish I did. I really wish I did. But this seems
I
like
think
a course for me.
I think you can in different things, and I'll use religion a little bit without diving too deep into me here. But I was raised Catholic, and and I think I've told you this before, Alex, but
Yeah.
Um, I believe in something bigger than me. I don't practice Catholicism now. I believe in something bigger than me. What exactly that is, I don't know. Call it the universe, call it love, call it God, call it whatever you want to call it. There's something bigger than me. I think there's a bigger plan in the works that maybe we don't see, right? But with some of the scandals, and I know I'm taking a little bit of left turn. We'll pull it back in here in a second. With some of the scandals that have happened over the years in the church that I called home, um, I don't believe in that organization
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Right? To something that professes to be a certain thing and then to hide some of the things that happened,
Yeah.
where I went to school
Mhm.
to my friends and I didn't know what was happening.
It's unforgivable for you
I,
to try to
it,
cover
it,
that
I,
up.
you know, I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
I'm out. You hurt my friends. I didn't even know you were hurting my friends. You hurt my friends. No.
I,
And so I think it can make a difference. But sometimes going back to the artist thing that we talked about earlier, sometimes I think the way we make a difference is a very personal thing, and it's something we do. It's this podcast, as you just referred to. It's putting some music out there. It's doing whatever how you can make a difference and how you express yourself. I think that's how we can make a lot of changes. And obviously there are groups of people who get together and do good things and try to promote change. But just to your point, I struggle with some organizations,
mm,
even if at the heart of an organization I think there's good, but somewhere along the line something happened and it went awry, right?
yeah.
And it's how do you capture that essence of the good piece of it and move that ahead and try to get it back on track. And that's something that feels nearly impossible for an individual. I don't think it is, but I think it starts with every individual person.
Anytime a uh, movement gets big enough, it gets infiltrated, usually by our own government. Like there are so many cultural movements that we look back on now with it's like, oh well, they did some bad things. I think like the Black Panthers are a great example of like this is like a serious movement with serious people behind it. And then what eventually happens is the CIA infiltrates it and turns it into something that it wasn't. Antifa is another example where it's like this is not what it started as, and it's militia groups like George Soros funded militia groups that give it a bad reputation. Um, so it is hard it's hard to form a movement when the opposition is going to infiltrate it, and there's no real good way to prevent that, right? It's like
No, I mean,
that's gonna happen.
That's the struggle itself.
Yeah,
I mean, if you didn't have that, then it would just be like, I don't know, like a win with nothing.
yeah, or they'll Waco you, which I mean, the Branch Davidians, I don't think those were good people. I don't think what's his name was a good guy, but
Oh, correct.
yeah, David Koresh is not. I'm not a fan. But what the ATF, what our government FBI did to those people, it no longer matters whether they were good people or not. It's kind of like someone wrongs you, someone steps on your foot, but then you broke their nose. So it doesn't matter that they stepped on your foot anymore, right?
So how do you think the author of this book would respond to, or how do you think he would feel about what we're talking about right now? Where would he be on that?
I think before I respond, do you have thoughts on that?
What he would think?
Yeah, about our conversation. That's a good question, Rusty. I got some thoughts on that.
I think similar to the way I talked about him, he would hate me, but he would respect the fact that I'm trying to at least like live by it.
Mm. Yeah, I'd be critical of like, if you believe in these things, then why don't you do something about it? Yeah, I think it's I what were we just talking about? That you asked what he would think about the conversation.
Well, we had the conversation of an organization may start out with a seed of something very positive, but it gets turned into something else later on,
Yeah.
right? Or we
Yeah.
overreact to a situation like in the Branch Davidian situation.
I think he would say that odds of success or realistic possibility is not a factor. That shouldn't determine how you live your life or what your values are. You should fight for a lost cause if it's what you actually believe, I think is what he would say. It doesn't matter if you're going to win or not. You still need to give 110% to whatever it is you stand for, I think is what he would say.
That applies to anything. If you're a musician, even if you know you're never going to be successful, you should still like attempt it. You should still give it your all. I mean, for anything, like even if you work out and you already know you don't have the genetics to be like the most jacked, powerful guy. You're not doing steroids or blah blah blah. You should still do it. There's still like value in that.
There's a value in the effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then another, you have a passage?
Oh, I do. It's unrelated though. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is page 26. This is unrelated to what we're talking about. Well, kind of. The steel faithfully taught me the correspondence between the spirit and the body. Thus, feeble emotions, it seemed to me, corresponded to flaccid muscles, sentimentality to a sagging stomach, and over-impressionability to an oversensitive white skin. And I just thought that was like so blunt. And he's like, if you're of weak mind, you're fat. It's like you're out of shape mentally. And I think that is like, I like the way he put that. It's very interesting because it is a muscle that you have to exercise.
But do you think that goes back to that tie-in, right? So in the last 4 years, I've lost 70 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Congratulations, man. That's huge.
Yeah. And, and I don't say that for self-gratification here or anything.
No, I know you don't, but still, that's awesome.
But now that effort has made a big difference in my mindset. Hey, I still got my issues. But to his point, if you can work on some of those things, it can change you. It can strengthen you in other areas, right? And I believe that's true. It's helped me. It doesn't solve everything, right? You still have things that you got to work through. Everybody's got things they have to work through. But I truly believe that to his point there, he basically kind of lumps it out there and says, hey, you can change yourself. You got to it's constant effort, and you got to make it some sort of a priority. And I can relate to that. I mean, that's been the last several years of my life that feel like that,
Yeah.
So
like a big part, especially in the very beginning, where he's talking about that I like about like the corrosion of words. And how it corrodes reality. Like an example, and he would criticize our current modern society a lot. And his biggest critique would be this. Right now, we kind of have a big focus on what reality should be is what we have in our mind, and that it should be accepted even despite the physical showing of that. Like things of like healthy at any size. That if I think I'm healthy in my mind, that should be reality and you should accept it. And you can apply this to so many things in like modern life in general.
Yeah.
David, I love this. I got a question for you based on that, because I wrote this down, that very thing you're talking about. If words distort reality, then what is truth?
Cool. Okay, we're talking about objective truth now. Now we're in deep water.
So I
Because
could,
when David said that, I mean, he brings it up in the book.
Yeah.
He says words distort reality. So if words, something he believed in from a childhood, right? That was important to him. If that distorts reality, then what's truth?
and then before you get into that,
Yeah.
while I was at work, I came up with this like cute little metaphor, story, analogy, whatever, like a little thing. Okay, imagine you're in a locked room with two things. One is like a super AI computer. The other is like some primitive proto-human who's like a cannibal. And then
Okay, so we got an AI computer and a cannibal, a primitive, like from Papua New Guinea.
so like something that's purely mind and something that's purely like physical.
Okay.
And then you show them this big book. It's called Sandman, right? And then you tell them, what do you think of this and what is this for? So you show it to the computer first, and the computer will start talking about, oh, Sandman is created by this author. It has these themes. Here's my character analysis about it. Here's this and that. It's like this many pages long. It teaches you about this. And you're like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's your reality. Whatever. It's cool. You show it to the primitive human. He ignores what you said. He takes the book. He whacks you on the head until he kills you. Then he rips off the pages, uses them to start a fire, uses the fire to cook you and eat you. And then afterward, he takes those ashes, he spits at it, and he mixes it to create war paint on his face. So to him, the reality is like the physical of what is the physicality of what this book can do.
Yeah.
And there's almost like, which one is reality? Is it what the computer said or what the primitive human did?
Objective reality is a controversial subject in our current society. Yeah, I think there is objective reality, but I will also admit that I have faith. This is a faith argument. To say you believe in objective reality is a God argument. If you follow that line of reasoning far enough, you eventually get to God, and that's I believe in God through my actions. So I've been praying recently. I don't know if I told you this either, David. I've been praying and I've been getting results from it. So kind of how you were talking about earlier, how you believe in a higher power, but you're not really putting any labels on it, is like literally all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything more than I have been praying and it's been working. And I think
pray every morning, Alex.
Really? That's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, it is, I don't know what to make of that, but it really doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's working.
And it's what you make it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have, what I do is not prescribed by anybody or any religion.
Yeah.
Right. What I do is a very personal thing, every morning. And I believe it helps me.
Yeah. And that's, man, you can't find that anywhere else. Like it's something like that is the only place you can find it. And it is, I've got some ideas about that, but at the end of the day, I don't really know, but it has such a value that is, I think, lost on a lot of people just to have either never tried it or had a bad experience with religion. And that was my experience. Is I pushed so far away from how I was raised that I'm finally coming full circle, and I'm like, no, there's a lot of value in these things.
Yeah, you became less reactionary.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like a
And
strong negative reaction.
and for me, I think, it goes along with what I said earlier about my thoughts, which are there's something bigger than me.
Hmm.
Call it what you want. If I am the end all be all, hmm, that's kind of a scary place now, isn't it?
Yep.
And I'm
Sad.
saying that for me, not for anybody else.
Well, it's
But
sad and it's lonely.
yes, so I think it's an effort to try to connect with what you with something, right? And I think it is about, I mean, because you're not around people all the time,
Hmm.
right? They are a lot. We're around people a lot at work and friends and all that stuff. But I think there's that desire to connect with something. So it's like there's got to be more than me,
Yeah.
right? And right, wrong, or indifferent. We'd get 15 people on here to argue different aspects of this, but yeah, I believe it's helped me. Why I don't exactly know, but
The
it has.
question of the divine and the idea of the divine is as old
Mm.
as sentience. Like becoming self-aware, the next question is why. And that's a very that there's nothing more human than religion, I think.
So does the author of this book believe? What does he believe? Right?
He's a religious fundamentalist. I don't know what I would call his God though. His God's probably Japan or self-mastery or something like that.
I mean, you could say it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Religion-wise, he's a Shionist. I don't remember the. It's their original religion of Japan.
Shinto.
Shinto.
Shintoism.
Shintoism.
Ah,
Shintoism's crazy. There's that lore. Like people talk about Norse lore and Greek lore. Yo, Shintoism is wild.
and
Anyway,
I'm totally unfamiliar there. So
there's some crazy lore with Shintoism. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, no, I mean that's pretty much it. But I don't even know if he per se really truly believe in it. It's more so it's like a framework he used to just like work with.
I got you. It's like cultural. It's kind of like his love for Japan is tied in with Shintoism.
Mhm.
It's like traditional Japan.
Yeah, which is what he devoted himself to. This idea of like a traditional like samurai almost.
Yeah.
uh,
Didn't he come from a Bushido family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But take into account this is like once America takes over everything, their goal is to destroy that because that's what gave them so much like trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can definitely understand like as an American nationalist where he's coming from as a Japanese nationalist, where it's like I love my country, or at least in theory, what it's supposed to be. And he's like, I want to restore Japan to its former glory. This is not what Japan is supposed to be.
Mhm.
And I think um, if nothing else, I highly respect Yukio Mishima. He is a man of principle and he means what he says, and he devotes his existence to his every waking thought to to
he's
his
loving the discussion tonight.
yeah.
And then my final note on the book is even though he's controversial, even if you disagree, because I do, I'm like more of a you know what I am. I'm more about like a globalism type thing.
Yeah.
That even though I completely disagree with his politics and his religion and this and that, the book doesn't really try to force that on you. He's not telling you to become a Japanese nationalist. He's not telling you to
Exactly.
follow my religion.
Yeah.
It's more so he's telling you to like live by something.
Yeah. And he's more also just telling you who he is, and he is telling you to stand for anything, like stand for something,
Mhm.
which like absolutely stand for something.
And I agree with all that. The thing that I think is really intriguing, which is because we all do it, is he's got the internal struggle of what things really are, right? What's really important. And you could see it kind of transition to his life because as he was young, it was one thing, and he got older, it became another. But there's that constant underlying thing of I'm struggling with something within myself, and that's all of us.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's all of us.
Yeah,
Every day, something we're going back and forth with something to go. How do I feel about this? What should I do? I mean, that's all of us, and I think that's very relatable to me.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's not only the suffering, but the acceptance of suffering. It's like the willingness to participate. Yeah. It's very it's Job, the book of Job.
Yeah.
It's I used to not like that story as a kid because the kind of naive take on Job, kind of the surface level take, is like, well, why would Job serve this God if he's consenting to his demise and like the murder of his family? And there's like, it's really not that deep, but like the more nuanced perspective on this is you need to understand Job doesn't know this is happening. He didn't hear the conversation between the accuser and God. He just knows that bad things are happening. And the three wise men, the elders come to Job and they're like, your family's dead, everything you have is gone, you have this horrible illness. If I were you, if I were you, I would like curse God. I would resent him so much. And really, like, to boil down Job, the principle is, what good is that going to do me? Is it going to make it better if I get angry and shake my fist at the world? I don't see how that helps the situation at all. I should probably just continue on in the face of suffering with the hope that things will get better. And I think that sums up Job. And it is also, I think Yukio Mishima would say it doesn't matter if there's something good to come out of it. It's still, you must accept suffering for the value you can get out of suffering itself.
Yeah, because what's the point of value? What's faith if like you just have everything?
Yeah.
Then it's not really faith.
Yeah.
If there's nothing like testing it.
It's a very interesting book. Why did you pick this? Was there a particular reason, or you're just like, this will be interesting conversation?
Interesting conversation. It's shorter, so that helps too.
Yeah, no, it was a good choice.
Thank you.
But despite being short, it's still like dense enough that we could like talk about all this.
Oh yeah, there's so much to talk about. It is so dense.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I'm glad you recommended it. It was heavy. It gave me a lot of like food for thought, and this conversation too is giving me a lot of food for thought. But yeah, I think that's all I had for it. Do y'all have any more thoughts on?
I said my final notes. I'm good. What about you, Rusty?
It's another book that I would not have read if it weren't for you guys in this podcast. So I appreciate it. And I do appreciate the length of the book because I've told you about my attention span before. so yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. I think this is a great kind of book for a book club, actually, especially like a book club like this. It's like, this is a really solid pick. And I did also appreciate that it was because we've been doing such long books. Like Odyssey was like, oh my God. Like I did the book for that and I still barely made it.
Yeah, that was a struggle.
Yeah. Speaking of short books, next month we have another really cool pick. Rusty. Oh, I was going to ask you if you had a copy on
There
you.
we go.
The Little Prince, or La Petite Prince, I think is the original French title.
Oh, it's French?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Rusty recommended this. I'm familiar with this. I haven't read it before, but I know what it is. I've heard people talk about it. I'm very excited to read it. It's going to be even shorter than Sun and Steel.
And probably a lot less dense. So
yeah,
it's a lot less dense. So just a couple of comments. One, it is very quick. It's an easy read. It is less dense. You can go to YouTube and actually listen to the story, and it's very short, right? Um, but and I don't have to tell you guys this because I know what you'll do with it. But when you read it, look deeper than the story that is truly the kid's story, right? Because there's a
Okay.
certain amount of kid's story here, but look deeper than that, and we'll see what we come up with when we talk about it. Because I think it's a really cool book. And actually, a guy I work with suggested because I was saying I want to do a short book on the podcast sometime. Alex asked me, what would be a good book? I want something short and I want something interesting. And there was a guy I work with, and he goes, "You need to read Little Friends." It's like, really? I've never read it, and that's why I even brought it up. So I think it'll be cool.
I'm very excited to get started on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When does what was the name? I know it was 3 letters. What's the name of your new song?
RDT comes out on May 2nd. So what's that, Friday?
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Right
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's instrumental. There were words, but the words aren't there.
Okay. I'm very curious to learn more about that. We'll talk about it offline.
Yeah.
Then the single you just released on the 16th.
April 16th was Leave It Alone.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That was fun.
Well, I appreciate that. It's wild because that one's it's getting a lot more plays than the other stuff.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
That was born in East Nashville.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, I appreciate both of you guys a lot. You add a lot of value to my life. This podcast, this book club we do, and also just who y'all are as people. I have a lot of respect and appreciation for. So thank y'all so much.
Same goes, man.
Thanks, man. And Alice, we will see you next time. Hope you enjoy.